Welcome to the Instant Speed Podcast in response edition. There's so much to in response to, as it were. So I figured, you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to bring in my good friend, Mr. Stephen Cookus, a.k.a. DMArmada, whom a lot of you may already know, as you should, because he is just that awesome in the Flesh and Blood scene. But most recently appearing as a co-host or co-caster with myself for the Calling in Taiwan. And yes, we know that Uprising and information regarding Uprising has leaked, and there's so much going on.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It was just funny because we were discussing this before recording, and frankly, this in response was meant to be purely about the Calling in Taiwan and, you know, the cheating that occurred there and just discussing the tournament in general. And then every extra few hours, I was adding layers to this. But we'll keep it brief. We will get to the Uprising stuff. But let's start, Armada, with the Calling in Taiwan, which you and I got to do overnight on the in the wee hours between Saturday and Sunday. And I thought it was awesome.
It was awesome. I'm still recovering from the awesomeness that was the Calling in Taiwan top 8. That was so much fun. The two of us just hanging out with everybody in chat and watching those games. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I really hope we get to do that again. I think anytime they announce like a big worldwide event, let's just set up a stream. Let's not even ask. We're just gonna do it. Just gonna commit.
Yeah. Permission is for peasants is what that is going on a bumper sticker somewhere. But in reality, this kind of just developed wherein we were thinking about it and we're like, let's do it. Like, why can't we do it? And the initial thought was just do the whole thing. And then we realized that 2 overnight shifts of like 8 to 10 hours a piece was not going to fly for us. So the top 8, I think, was good enough. And like you mentioned, this is something that we want to do again. I think we absolutely want to do it again. And I don't think we need, LSS's permission. So we're just going to do it.
It was kind of cool that they were like gung-ho about it, though. I'll take that, man.
Well, that's part of it. Again, obviously, sometimes they say it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. In this case, well, I guess we got both. So
yeah, a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, so we're good with that. But overall, let's just talk really quick about the meta scene, because part of this was the fact that it's always intriguing to see how the metas develop across the pond and wherever, in the far reaches of the world of what people are doing locally. And in this case, the Taiwan region, I think it was 6 Starvos, a Vis, and a Chain, which is not immensely surprising to see that many Starvos, but I think just the fact that there wasn't any Prism, there was no real Dark Horses that were out there, because I don't think Chain is even a Dark Horse anymore.
No, I don't think so either. I think everyone expected, like the big triumvirate with Prism in there, and the fact that Prism wasn't in there is probably the talking point of that entire, I guess, top 8 series. Is just because it wasn't able yet again to kind of cut in there. Outside of Phano Black doing so previously, it's like Prism just hasn't been able to cut through all of the other matchups to get to the one that is perhaps favorable enough, which is crazy to say because, Starvo is so prevalent in the meta as far as Classic Constructed just in the past season. And there's a lot of them out there. And if Prism's not cutting through that chaff and then, I guess winning its other matchups, it's just not making it to top 8 consistently. So for me, that was sort of the take of the top 8 minus any of the extra game stuff like we can talk about here in a moment.
Right. And what's awesome as well is that the heroes may have been the same, no surprises. Starvo, Viserai, Chain, we've seen those before, but within those micro metas that are regional, the heroes are strong, we know that, but how those decks are built are interesting as well, and how they're piloted. And one of the main things that I took away was that the standard strategy of that Vis game that we called was that Vis typically goes with the OTK plan. But in this case, they were just, trading haymakers back and forth without any regard to what the, for us here in North America would be the quote unquote common logic of how this matchup would go, which would be that Vis would play it a little bit more defensively, and then would eventually pile on this massive heap of, arcane damage in the form of like 20 some odd to 30 rune chance, plus the Skeleta and the Sonata, etc. But in this case, the one thing that even chat had giving a lot of a lot of credit to chat was that the first thing they picked out was like, wow, running Sync Below, Red Sync Below in Starvo, that's unique. That's a little bit different. And that is a meta call. That is definitely a meta call, because if you know that the Viserai is not going to be on OTK, then you could put in some more defense reactions, because otherwise those defense reactions would have been completely useless. It would just been awful. So on both sides, just the approach to the matchup itself was different, and the read on that meta, it was quite unique as well.
Yeah, and that could have been a sideboard call, and it could have been like, hey, I know that specific player and the way they like to play their deck. But even if it is that, I mean, you're still playing to your local scene, and you're still playing to people that you know in that area. And it is just strange to see that, but it's kind of cool to see that as well, because that's the kind of thing that you see in a different region that plays heavily. Like, you're not, if you look at a region wherein there's a lot of people that are just kind of like picking the game up recently, what you'll probably find is that they're all sort of starting with a base list already and just running it a bunch, right? With not very many tweaks towards what they could see. But that speaks to the possibility, and I'm not saying it's 100%, but it speaks to the possibility that there's like, those are all players that are just grinding out their local metas, their local scenes, and they're making their own tweaks based on what they're playing against and making their own decisions, and not just kind of finding a list somewhere and then just going with it. It's not terribly like a bad thing, but it speaks to them really coming up with their own meta to a certain degree, and that's kind of fun.
So we move on now to the finals, which again for us occurred at like 5 a.m. and we were already a little bit loopy. We have our own lives, and obviously this is something that I mentioned. It's for the love of the game. You know, we love doing this, and we would have done it on the moon if there was a calling there, of course. But the finals was a little bit. It was definitely intriguing, but it wasn't because of the gameplay. What happened in the finals, for those who are unaware, was that the chain player, I could say cheated. It was reviewed. It was under investigation. I don't know what what it is now, but I mean, ultimately they were disqualified. That is a certainty. They were disqualified. They get no prize. Their name was scrubbed out of the bracket, so there is no essentially second place winner, I guess. But what occurred in this case, Armada, as you saw it, maybe you can help describe it a little bit.
Yeah, so there was a fused Oakenold, which ended up connecting, and because it was fused, the attacking player gets to choose two cards from the opponent's hand and bottom those two cards randomly, which does mean that the player that it gets done to can look at those cards and choose which ones go in the bottom in whatever order. They are randomly chosen from the person's hand, but they get to look at the cards and then place them on the bottom in any order. What ended up happening was, out of the three cards in that player's hand, the two that were selected made their way to the mat. The one that was that was not selected made its way to the mat. And in the process of looking at which two were going to be put in whatever order on the bottom, the card that was set aside, still in the hand, was swapped with one of the cards that was supposed to be bottomed. And interestingly enough, both cards that were supposed to be bottomed were both Talisman of Tithes, which pitches blue, so it can be used for resources. But it's also unique in the matchup to allow for stopping Crown of Seeds. So it ended up working out in the player's favor, wherein they swapped out one card and swapped in to their hand one of those two Talisman of Tithes, so that they could then start their turn off by playing that, and then seeing if they could stop a Crown of Seeds trigger, so that the opposing player can't draw a card. And that's exactly what happened. The opposing player tried to Crown of Seeds. The Crown of Seeds was the draw card portion was stopped by the Talisman of Tithes that was incorrectly put into the hand instead of bottomed to the bottom of the deck. Now, we can kind of split hairs and try to decide if it was intentional or not. It looked pretty intentional, but whether it was or not, the rules violation is what led to the disqualification that was decided by the judges. And from that point, the rest of the tournament was over, and a champion was crowned. But definitely a strange moment to watch live and see that whole thing kind of play out.
Right. And again, full credit to the chat, because there was somebody in my chat on my Twitch channel where I was broadcasting this. You were broadcasting this on your YouTube channel live. the individual in my Twitch chat, which I forgot the name and I apologize, but caught it immediately and clipped it and said, "Here it goes." And that clip now has like several thousand views on it because it was important. But that was as soon as it happened, they just spotted it. And for us, and I get it, like it's a two-pronged approach from like why I'm not trying to I'm not trying to say that I didn't catch it. I thought it looked fishy, and I know that you probably caught it and thought it was fishy as well. But for us as broadcasters, it's not on us to make assumptions in that regard. We cannot do that. That's just not. It's not professional. It's not appropriate. That's what the judging team is there for. That's what that kind of stuff is. So we're there to essentially just maybe communicate. But it was a unique experience because we had no. This isn't like you and I casting at US Nats or at a calling or something. We were basically plugged into a live feed that was provided to us, and then we did it on our own. So we had no communication with LSS, no communication with the judges or the players. So, and it was in a language that we did not understand. So we had to just basically guess. And it was fascinating in that regard because as soon as the judge came in and you see both players, they put their hand on the table and they're like looking at the judge. You and I were like, okay, I think we know what this is about. Even without knowing any information, we kind of figured that one out.
Yeah, and like you said, chat, I think in both of our streams sniffed it out pretty quickly because I had someone in chat as well mentioning it and going back and rewinding it, which was the right call. I mean, and like you said, I think from our position, it is not something we should be commenting on at the time because we're in a unique position to be providing insightful commentary throughout. If we were to say, I don't know, stop right there and start talking about that moment, then we're kind of losing the point of us. We also have the ability, which is very dangerous. If we start doing something like that and talking about it, we have the dangerous ability of maybe creating a witch hunt that shouldn't exist. And so it's better for us to kind of roll with the punches and let judges do their thing. And obviously let chat do the thing too, because you guys are really good at catching things. And then following up, we can't scrub the video back and watch it and watch it and watch it and also provide you commentary in real time. But you guys have that power. And so there's a balance that we have to strike and a balance that you guys are able to kind of take and pick up and run with, which I think works out nicely sometimes.
Yeah, it's great to have that kind of, sort of this giant force of people and all the multiple eyes that are picking up on it. But oftentimes it's something that is so quickly done. But I mean, it's just awkward when you see somebody after like random cards and then you see them kind of manipulate look, and then it was quick. And don't get me wrong, it was absolutely quick. But for you and I who are there trying to make sure that the narrative of the gameplay itself is what we're focusing on, it's difficult. But yeah, like you said, if we start shining a light and creating that narrative of like, we think that this person did something shady, then ultimately that sort of gets a snowball going, whether it's justified or not. We cannot be.
Yeah, that's the big thing, because if it turns out that was not at all the case and it was totally on the up and up, then we as commentators have not only stopped providing insightful commentary on what's going on in the game, but then we've possibly smeared somebody's name on, a live stream. And I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want someone to kind of go through that if it's unwarranted. I mean, honestly, it all comes down to this, everybody. Don't cheat.
Oh, well,
Cheating is not a good idea. You shouldn't do it, and you definitely shouldn't do it intentionally on a stream. It's not a good idea. It's not a good look, and it's not something that I would recommend in any form or format, because it takes the fun out of the game for everybody. People that are watching, people that are playing, and you probably, because if you get caught, then you miss out on the fun stuff that could have come from playing a game out. So don't cheat.
Look, again, I'm not somebody who cheats in card games. Like I think the last time I've ever cheated at a game was like Monopoly, and it was purely because I just despised what was going on. So I think what I did was like I just snuck an extra $500 while like someone was
play that Monopoly Cheaters Edition. Have you ever played that?
No.
You ever seen that?
No, every Monopoly is Monopoly Cheaters Edition, for the record.
Let's go.
Like, let's just
Monopoly
be real.
Cheaters Edition does seem really interesting, though. I have to wait till my kids are older, then I can teach them, and then I can just swindle them.
Exactly. Like everybody who's played Monopoly is already aware that Monopoly's Cheaters Edition is just basically, wait for your opponent to go to the bathroom and then just, easy $500 in your back pocket.
I can't personally do it.
Well,
I find it so. Here's the thing about me and like games and board games. I like, if the possibility of cheating comes up, I think to myself, but what would happen if we just play it out as is? And like the weird brained version of me just wants to know what happens in the normal timeline.
But
Right?
that's
Because like if you cheat, you know you're probably gonna win,
right.
right? Unless you get caught. And so like that's a predictable it's really more interesting to see what happens if you just play it out. Something crazy could happen. You miss out on that.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. Listen, this happened like in when I was in my teens, and I'm in my 30s now. But I was staring down like Hotel Avenue on Boardwalk and such. I just needed to roll the dice, and I was like, there's no way, there's no way. Not to mention, again, I get it. And it's I don't cheat in card games. I'm more happy to take the L than I am to win. Like, cause there's like I said. And like what you meant, like just don't cheat. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Point.
And think about it this way: it's not like this dude tried to cheat and he got caught, and now he just lost the game. He got scrubbed out of the entire tournament, gets no prizes, like giving up thousands and thousands of dollars worth of prizes and cash because of this. So there that goes. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all.
Didn't turn out well.
No. So don't do it. Let's move on a little bit here. We're gonna get to the uprising stuff in just a second, but Mr. Stephen Cookis, would you do this again? Would you do this up late, overnight, having a good time, kind of casual style thing? You know,
yeah.
All right, cool. So
I mean, I wouldn't do it tonight.
No, God, no, Jesus. I still haven't.
No, I need to sleep again so that I can catch up.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I would totally do it again.
Yeah, I need to catch up on that. You know, my body clock is like, no. You pay now. The bill is due. So that's where it's going.
That's how I feel.
If you liked, friends, if everyone out there, if you liked that whole ordeal, please contact LSS. Like tweet at FabTCG and say, hey, we really like the Armada and Flake stream. So more of that, please. And maybe they'll get more involved. Maybe we can do like giveaways or something, or have some fun on it.
Ooh, that'd be sick. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That would be sick.
Hit him with the old Twitter handle. Pop on Facebook. Hit him at Facebook. They post on Facebook pretty reasonably.
There you go.
Pretty often. Yeah, hit him up, man.
Yeah, tell him that your boys Stevie C and Matty D want to bring you some more of the FAB to the TV. I don't know. All right, we're done.
That was fantastic. You put that on a shirt.
Yes.
Please just put that on a shirt.
Yeah, and send it to the 90s where that kind of rap montage would have helped out. Okay.
Or New Zealand. You can also send it to New Zealand.
That's true. Yeah, they'll get.
I need a picture of James White wearing that shirt. Now that would be sick. We would have made it. We arrived.
That's the new hero. It's Rap Battle God. It's Draconic Rap Battler is the new one. So Uprising, this being recorded right now, it's 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on April 25th, and so much has occurred over the course of the last few days, in the last few hours even, and I'm still trying to digest. I had an article that was going to go out for CFB, for Channel Fireball, that was going to talk about what my thoughts were of the new hero and my prediction of a draconic ninja. Now, they haven't announced that the new ninja is a quote-unquote draconic ninja, but they have announced that they've announced a whole bunch of stuff. But let's just dig into it real quick here, Stephen, because Uprising, if you haven't checked it out, go to fabtcg.com, check out the article. There's two of them, but one of them is just basically a very, that kind of product breakdown of what's coming, the cards and such, but it also gives us a little bit of the lore behind it, and I know you are the lore master, so is this what you expected from Uprising?
Yes. Specifically the illusionist fact, the fact that it's an illusionist hero. I proposed that in my own Discord and in a group chat that I'm part of with a large number of people. I just kind of threw it out there because I thought, hey, this could be a possibility if you're trying to weave in all the classes get touched a little bit. I didn't peg ninja. I had it pegged for assassin as a new class, but I thought to myself, illusionist makes some sense, trying to find balance if you don't want to go like a bunch of wizards. Illusionist makes sense. And then of course ninja, once they posted that picture like several hours before the announcement, I think we all went, okay, yeah, it's ninja. And so but as far as the lore of there's an uprising of like peasants or just the common folk, that's exactly what I expected when we saw like the first kind of images and the idea of uprising. And I think everyone should have expected that because of the way that they very clearly wrote that very first story with Icelander, actually showing up in Volcor, and there's, this group of soldiers that are abusing the townsfolk, and all the things that she does is sort of like a militant, I don't know, like a liberator almost. She kind of acts that way. So they were definitely scaling this towards that kind of a story. And I, for one, prefer that kind of a story over maybe the rest of them, except for maybe them diving into the whole political subterfuge idea of why are there these creatures that are kind of trying to overthrow the ruling class, or like take the place of the ruling class. I think both of those stories could have worked, but when they called it Uprising, and when they did that whole thing with the first article, I was like, yeah, this seems right. This seems like a cool idea.
So no fourth hero, and I don't know if this is just the new way that the new draftable sets are going to come out as, but we've had 4 heroes in Welcome to Wraith, in Arcane Rising, in Monarch. Suddenly Tales of Aria was 3, but there were 3 elements, so maybe that was an outlier, as each hero had like 2 of the elements associated with them, and it was fine. But now all signs are...
Have they confirmed no fourth hero?
Well, they haven't confirmed it, but I've been doing a little bit of digging, and here's what I have. Again, this is all part of an article that I'm now rewriting. But one of the takeaways that I've sort of felt from this is the fact that there's probably going to be 3, but I'm still conflicted and I can't confirm it. And obviously I can't confirm it because I don't know. But here are the reasons why I think that it's going to be 3. The first is that in the article, they make reference to all the heroes. They say Dromai, an Imperial Illusionist. They talk about the hot-headed ninja named Phi, and they talk about Icelander. They don't mention anything else about a third. The other is more nuts and bolts, which is, where's that article I'm writing? Here it is. Where in it they're talking, or in it they break down the set and how many cards are in it, how many rares, how many majestics, and I compared that to Aria, and I compared it to the other the other sets that have 4 heroes, and it's all the numbers are lining up incredibly closely to Aria in terms of how many majestics, how many rares, and just the set in total, how many cards. 226 cards in Uprising, 238 in Aria, 27 majestics, 51 rares, 54 rares. Whereas if we're looking at something like Monarch, the last set that had 4, 307 total cards, 31 majestics, 79 rares. So
I would compare it. I wouldn't compare it to Monarch, because they actually, when they released Monarch, they specifically said that Monarch was the largest set to date, and they like really pushed the fact that it's way bigger than normal. I wonder what that compares to as far as like WTR and ARC. As those ones.
We can take a look if I...
Do you have those numbers? Because I think like if you compare it to those, that might be the best case scenario for, holding up that argument. Which is probably a good idea.
Where am I saying? It is in Collector's... It's not in Collector's Center. Or maybe it is.
Should be in Collector's
Let's
Center.
take a look
I have
over
Arcane Rising right here.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So, what do we have?
So it's a little weird because... so 219 total cards in Arcane Rising. But it's a little weird because they have far less majestics. You have to combine the majestics and the super rares. So if you combine those together, you have 25 majestics. Compared to, what did you say, 27?
27. Wraith has
less rares.
Yeah.
Right?
Wraith, Welcome to Wraith. Again, 25 super rare / majestic. You're looking at what, Arcane Rising?
Yeah.
Okay, so 226 total cards in Welcome to Wraith, 25 majestic / super rares, 48 rares, etc., etc., etc. So again,
you said 226 total cards?
226 total cards in Welcome to Wraith. So
it's exactly the same.
Precisely. So there's another indication of where it could potentially be 4th. Not to mention, I believe that James White was talking about Volcor being the next place he wants to go, and I looked and I could not find it where James, and I'm certain, I don't know if this is just me dreaming, but I'm almost certain that James White mentioned that the next set was going to feature the hero that he wanted to, that he was so excited to bring to us, a new class that he had been working on. And it's not Ninja, that's not a new class. Illusionist is not a new class. Icelander, nothing new here. So is there potentially a 4th? Like, it seems so odd that there's nothing hinting to it besides kind of hearsay and just all this conjecture of I heard but I didn't hear and all this assumptions and such like that.
I think I know what you're talking about. In one of the interviews that he did, he mentioned that in this upcoming set, not named at the time, there was going to be a hero that he had been working on and had been with him since the beginning. So, like, the first hero he created, or at least one of the
Yeah.
first.
Where was
And then
that
one of the
spoken
heroes
about,
that
though?
I can't remember which interview it was. I'm sure someone down in chat or in the comments can leave a comment. But there, I think he even said something to the effect that this was the hero that helped me discover on New Year's Eve
Mm-hmm.
the idea of coming like cards coming in cycles with different pitch values. And so I'm curious to know if this is like, I feel like that fits a ninja easily. Like, you can kind of come up with like the ratios for ninja, whereas like illusionist maybe not, and wizard perhaps. I know wizard he's mentioned in the past, I think, is his favorite class. So
There's a lot to kind of unpack. I think that conversation was actually on my podcast. Now I feel embarrassed, but uh,
let's go. I
right?
think it was on your podcast.
Um,
Did you check your own resources?
I think I checked my own to just confirm that he had said that Volkor was the next place that we're going after Arya.
He
And
said his favorite region was where we were going.
so that would be, yeah, so that'd be Volkor. And also I went in there to confirm that there would not be a new element in this upcoming Uprising set, because he had mentioned also that there's 3 elements. There's lightning, earth, and ice. And will there be more down the line? Maybe, but these are the ones, and they're only going to be featured in Aria. And given the fact that a lot of these sets are developed years in advance, there's no way that they made Aria and then within the span in between, they're like, we need to come up with something new in like this, 8 months between. Like, no, that's just, it's not plausible. No. So no fire is also what's part of it. I'm just, all these things that I was just thinking about, but I'm still kind of, now you've got me kind of convinced that a 4th one might be out there, given the fact that
I think it's doable. And I think it would be a fun little rug pull, because we know 3 heroes can exist, but we haven't, like, in a draft pod, and that's really where we should be thinking. Because I think nuts and bolts wise, I think you're 100% on. That's the place to look and see if they can set up a structure that allows for a 3 in this set, and with this aesthetic and with the card pool that we've seen thus far, which is huge. I mean, it's like super small, right?
yeah.
That's where we should look to know if we can plan for a 4th hero or a 4th class. Because we already have wizard, we already have illusionist, and we already have ninja. So the question becomes, is there a way for all 3 of those very disparate classes to share a card pool? We have 2 possible draconic heroes, which are very fiery looking, and then 1 ice hero completely by herself. And so any card that is printed as an ice card that can't be accessed by these 2, does that card just immediately become pointless in a draft scenario in pack 3? That's the question we want to ask ourselves. And of course, like, there's always the possibility of pivoting and of hate drafting, and of like, well, you definitely don't want to let all the ice cards just be there because Icelander's going to take over. But are they going to try the Tales of Aria thing, even though there are not 3 different heroes that can access like a 1 pool of card per 2 heroes? Or are they going to give us a 4th hero that maybe is ice? Or are they going to like to give you that balance of light versus shadow like they've done? It's very interesting.
That's the part of it as well. It's kind of also leaning me to the fact that there's got to be a 4th hero, because, well, ultimately, if you suspect that the ninja is draconic, then you have to assume that a 4th hero that is also ice is out there to sort of balance, and not purely from the perspective of, well, there's 2 draconics, so there's got to be 2 ice, but from a draft perspective, for the logistics of drafting, to know that, hey, there's got to be X amount of draconic cards to feed these 2 heroes, but if the rest are ice and it's equal, then you're going to have 2 heroes fighting for the same draconic card pool while the Icelanders just laugh, right? So I think that, but then again, you're thinking that, okay, there's going to be an ice hero, but we've seen ice heroes. We've got ice heroes. We've got plenty of ice heroes as it stands. We've got Icelander, we've got Starvo, and we've got Oldham, and we've got Lexi. So do we really need another ice hero? And trust me, I'm somebody who plays the ice character. I was Iceman in X-Men Legends for GameCube. I was
Oh, let's go.
right. I
That's a
was
reference right there.
there. You go. I was always Iceman. For Marvel Ultimate Alliance or whatever, all those games, I love playing Iceman. And beyond that, you're thinking of it from just the perspective of like, okay, like you got to balance it, but now you're having too many ice cards and
does it balance? That's the question that we should ask ourselves. And can it balance? Are we overthinking it? Is it literally just, well, there's going to be a lot of ice cards, and maybe if you didn't, if you didn't kind of keep yourself open, then you just kind of messed yourself up. And too bad if there's a lot of ice cards in pack 3. Maybe that's like just straight up okay. But something tells me that they're they've probably set themselves up a little bit more comfortably. So maybe they did something with distribution. Maybe they have another 4th hero waiting in the wings. To me, I feel like that's the easiest answer. But then again, how do you explain within the story that there's another ice hero?
Yeah, maybe they just don't give it Draconic. Maybe the ninja is not Draconic. Maybe the ninja is Shadow Ninja, which I've also been very at, which helps the Leviathan pool if necessary. But again, a lot of this stuff was sort of printed and put out and designed ages ago, before there was this massive outcry for people in the Leviathan stands to be like, hey, we need help, please.
I don't know. I don't think it could be a Shadow Ninja. I know people want it, but I don't think it's ever going to be a Shadow Ninja. I think the way they describe him as a fiery, hot-headed character, and then of course the Imperial Illusionist is Draconic. I feel like there's something else there, though. Maybe they give you look. Shiana has factored in largely in the story and the lore that they've put into place with the 2 articles they've released for this in 1 week. Is it possible that they give Shiana a token and say, here's how she functions? Not the one that we see Diamond Gemini, but maybe she's like a generic hero that can access both card pools, so that you allow for some pivot. I feel like that's a possibility, but it would be very powerful.
This is what makes these periods of time so turbulent, because we know so little and we have so far to go to find out more stuff. So all we're left with is our own ridiculous imaginations, and
which makes it fun. That's like the best part
I know
about spoiler seasons.
But it's fun for us, I guess, to a degree. But at the same time, you just want validation for your wild assumptions and such, right?
Sure.
You want to be proven right or wrong. You want to know. And again, for myself, who's not necessarily a major competitive oriented player, there's nothing necessarily at stake here. I don't need to know what the cards are so I can start designing, but I know that a lot of my competitive colleagues are very much like, just give me the cards so I can start brewing.
I think it's Shiana. The more I'm thinking about it, the more hyped I'm getting. I think it is. Why else would they not make a Blitz deck for her? Because she can play both card pools.
Yeah. That's the other thing, was that in the product announcement, they mentioned that the product display case for the Blitz decks are 4 of each hero. And they only announced
2 heroes. Yeah,
there's 2. They only announced 2. So who is this third one? Or this mystery? There's Icelander's not getting a Blitz deck, but who are the other ones? What else is happening here? There's so much fascinating nonsense to really dig into, and this is what I like about talking with you, is because you have a more of an inside scoop on the lore, so you know what fits and what doesn't. Because every time I hear James White speak about this, he's so passionate about making sure that there's a story to be told here. So it's not just a matter of like, oh, and a wild Rhinar appears. Like, no, that's not what it is, right? It's got to tie into something.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I could go on here for like far too long about just weird speculation theories and but I totally agree. And honestly, I think that this is for me one of those most fun times where we have just enough information to be dangerous and to get really audacious with our predictions. And then we find out what it really is. And oftentimes when something is spoiled for you, you're like, "Oh, okay, that wasn't what I was expecting." But for me, with Legend Story Studios and with FAB, I've been like, oh, I would never have thought of that. So it's literally more that way for me than anything else. Like, if you said they're going to put dragons as allies in this, I'd be like, Oh, I would never have thought of that. And by the way, everyone, they're gonna put dragons as allies in this. That's a thing that you can do. Dragons are allies now, and technically they're illusions, but also technically they're like allies. So that's cool, man. And I want to see the other two because there's at least 3 of them.
All right, last discussion point is a nice little tidbit that I pulled out that I'm proud that I noticed, which is the fact that these allies, much like Ursur, the Soul Reaper, etc., they attack. They live on the board. They're kind of like there to do your bidding. The difference is that while Ursur attacks for 0 and does some naughty things, this dragon, while referring and in the game text to itself attacking, has no text that activates an attack. So how does this dragon attack? That is a very spicy layer that I believe will be tied to either a game text or a weapon of sorts, similar to like Luminaris or something, where it's like your allies can attack or along those lines. But in which case, then your own weapon doesn't attack. So like Luminaris. So you need to kind of build around this dragon hero and these dragon allies to that degree.
Yeah. No, that's a really fascinating point because as I was looking at both of the cards, the regular card face and the Marvel card face, which is just beautiful and exactly what they should be doing with their cards because it's too fantastic not to. I was looking for a cost to play it, and that doesn't exist either. And I hadn't connected the dots on what you said about the cost to attack with it. But yeah, there's not a cost to play it either, or like just get it out there. And so obviously it has to be created like other allies or anything like that, but it also has to be attacked with. And I think you might be on the right track, is like the weapon for the illusionist is going to perhaps be how this creature attacks.
Yeah, it's a discussion that I had as soon as these new cards were released, and the first thing I pulled out was that, and then I was just thinking, and again, no cost to deploy it or play it on the board. It is a majestic, so it's not a token like Ursur is, right? So does it swim around in your deck? Is it a sideboard piece that you have to maintain, like that you can pull out of your sideboard when it's summoned? Does it start on the board? Like what is this? Like, like this is what's fascinating about it, where perhaps your hero turns into it. Like I don't know, man. I what do I know? I'm not a doctor, but again, at the end of the day, it's still a token that has a life total that needs to be attacked. But then again, people are saying, well, if you attack Ursur, you can't defend against the attack on Ursur. It just eats the damage or doesn't eat the damage. But maybe this is something that, given the fact that it's so powerful and it's something you probably have to build up towards, maybe this is your hero text is you can defend your dragon, against attacks.
Yeah, or something to that effect, right?
Like again, we're just speculating. We're spitballing here, and that's part of the fun, is because our information is what you guys out there know, limited. But we can just interpret based on the knowledge that we have, the wisdom that we have, and kind of correlate it with what makes sense and what possibly doesn't. But again, I've been proven wrong a million times when it comes to what makes sense and what doesn't, because to me, I thought that something like Starvo was obscenely ridiculous, but here it is, and we're like, wow, okay, let's rock and roll.
I mean, he is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Just maybe not in the way that we intended or expected.
I also want to give one shout out here to a gentleman by the name of Nimsh, I believe, on Twitter, who replied to a tweet that I made in February. Said, give me the tweet I made was on the 23rd of February, and the question I asked was, what I asked was, what is your most ridiculous hot take, FAB related? And the response that I got from Nimsh was, the next draftable set will have an illusionist, a ninja, a wizard, and a brand new class. And spot on so far, minus the brand new class, which we don't know, may or may not happen yet. So I got to give credit where credit is due, because that was a shot called all the way back in February 23rd, 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's a smart take. I wouldn't even call that a hot take. That's a smart take, because what it ends up doing is it gives you all of the heroes that have been underserved as far as classic constructed, and it puts them all into one set so that you basically advance those heroes to where everybody else is sitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it pulls all the heroes up at once. And the question, of course, becomes, well, how do you explain that without just saying, oh, it's a set that allows people to, play the hero they want? And the answer in this case is a really cool story. A
Yes.
really cool story.
Love it.
Very well executed.
Well, look, there's going to be more stuff coming through. We don't need to wax too much poetic about this right now, because I'm sure that by the time this airs, there's going to be brand new leaks that are going to be coming through, and we'll have all kinds of new stuff. But Mr. Stephen Cookus, a.k.a. DMArmada, it is always my privilege and pleasure to talk to you, my friend. And I know that we will be casting together together soon. When that will be, we cannot say, or we will not say. We don't know which one of those two is true, but it will happen.
I know which is true.
I know. You and I know which is true, but we can't tell you. So suck it.
Oh man.
Got 'em.
Someone's gonna get so offended by that.
Damn right. If you're offended by that, please let us know in the comments and tell all your friends about how offended you are, and then show them the link to this video. But yeah, man.
Yes.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, please go check out at Armada_DM and go to youtube.com/DMArmada. You need to go check this dude out. Awesome human being. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up here, buddy?
I don't know which side I'm on compared to you, but I'm going to point this way. Hey, you should check him out as well on twitch.tv/watchflake.
Yes.
Which is interesting because you can go and literally just watch Flake, and all you have to do is type in watch Flake. I watched him like yesterday. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic time, and he's a great person. So you should go check him out as well.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. There you go. Hit the plugs for me. I love it. All right. That's it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And please check out our Patreon if you want to. Patreon.com/InstanceBeatPod. Why not? Support us. It's the best thing that you could possibly do. Well, it's one of them. But yeah. Don't forget, you're not losing if you're learning. We'll catch you next time, friends, on the Instant Speed Podcast. See you later. Adios.